Have you ever felt like a complete idiot? Not just any fool, but an idiot in the deepest, most existential sense of the word. Someone who perceives the absurdity of life, who feels too much, who sees both the misery and the beauty of the world at the same time. If so, perhaps you've already flirted with the thoughts of Dostoevsky, the writer who transformed the idiot into one of the most complex archetypes in literature and philosophy. But what does it mean to be an idiot according to Dostoevsky? And what if I told you that perhaps this is the only way out for a society as sick as ours? Beauty will save the world. This phrase, spoken by Dostoevsky himself, was not written to comfort. It was written to provoke. He didn't write to please, but to hurt, to open wounds that the reader would rather keep closed. His words are not just fiction. They are sharp blades that cut deep into the flesh of human existence. His novel, The Idiot, is not just a story. It is a philosophical thesis disguised as a tragedy. A brutal study of what happens when a genuinely good man is thrown into a world that only understands the language of selfishness and corruption. Prince Myshkin, the protagonist, is the last romantic in a society that has already traded passion for money, kindness for calculation, innocence for cynicism. His mistake? Believing in the purity of the heart in a world that has learned to crush everything that cannot be exploited. To those around him, he is a fool, a stranger, a programming error in a system that only accepts players willing to cheat. But Dostoevsky forces us to face an unsettling question. Who is the true idiot? The one who remains intact and pays the price, or those who betray, manipulate, and corrupt their very souls to survive? What is most disturbing about Myshkin is not just his naivety, but his ability to see and feel the pain of others with an almost supernatural intensity. He doesn't just see others' misery, he feels it as if it were his own. This is the torment of existence, as philosopher Emil Cioran called it. This rare and devastating ability to carry the suffering of others as if it were his own burden. And perhaps that's exactly why he becomes unbearable to those around him. His presence exposes, dismantles illusions, strips away others' defenses without needing to raise his voice. He doesn't accuse, impose, or demand anything, but his mere existence is a cruel mirror where everyone sees themselves as they truly are. Nietzsche, an avid reader of Dostoevsky, said that no one lies more than the indignant, because often indignation is not a response to injustice, but a shield against one's own guilt. And Myshkin awakens exactly this, an unbearable discomfort. He is the constant reminder that something is profoundly wrong with the way we live. And those who have already settled into the game of social hypocrisy cannot bear this reminder. Myshkin's journey seems like that of a martyr, but without the glory of sanctity. He is not revered nor admired. He is ridiculed by some, despised by many, and destroyed by almost everyone. His goodness does not make him a triumphant hero, but a lamb waiting for the slaughter. His love for beauty and his boundless compassion are seen as weaknesses, vulnerabilities that can only end in tragedy. And perhaps Dostoevsky was right. Perhaps the world really has no space for Myshkins, because absolute goodness not only challenges the system, it threatens it. It shows that the game can be played differently, and that is unbearable for those who have learned to win by cheating. And us? Where do we fit into this story? Would we be able to act like Myshkin, or would we align ourselves with those who despise him? We live in an era where cynicism is confused with intelligence and coldness with maturity. We laugh at naivety. We mock hope. We celebrate emotional hardness as if it were synonymous with wisdom. But has this cleverness brought us anything but an unbearable emptiness? Dostoevsky does not give us easy answers, but deep down we know the truth. We know that Myshkin is not the idiot. The idiots are us, who spend our lives justifying our own lack of courage. Myshkin's tragedy is not only in his goodness, but in the time and place he exists. 19th century Russia was not fertile ground for pure souls. It was a silent battlefield where the old and the new fought a cruel battle. The decadent aristocracy tried to maintain its pomp, while revolutionary ideals blew through like inevitable winds. The Orthodox faith, which once gave meaning to Russian identity, was beginning to crumble under the weight of modernity and nihilism. It was in this scenario that Dostoevsky shaped his characters, giving them voices full of doubts, fears, and dilemmas from a time on the brink of collapse. And no one understood this collapse better than the author himself. Dostoevsky was not just an observer of the social and spiritual chaos surrounding him. He was a victim of it. Condemned to death for his involvement with subversive intellectuals, his execution was canceled at the last moment, and he was sent to years of forced labor in Siberia. There, among criminals and the destitute, he saw the human soul without masks, without conventions. It was in this frozen hell that he understood that degradation and redemption could walk side by side, that monstrosity and holiness were merely opposite faces of the same coin. This experience irrevocably shaped his work. Unlike other writers of his time who sought to understand man through reason, Dostoevsky delved into the darkness of the unconscious, anticipating ideas that Freud and Jung would only formulate decades later. For him, humans were not driven by logic alone, but by hidden forces, untamed passions, contradictory desires, and unconfessable fears. His realism was not only social, but psychological. Every character he created was a living anatomy of the human spirit, a confession disguised as fiction. And Myshkin, the protagonist of The Idiot, may have been his most disturbing creation, because he embodied something that society always pretended to value, but deep down despises: true goodness. The problem is that absolute goodness doesn't fit in the world. Dostoevsky himself seems skeptical about the survival of a pure man without being crushed. Myshkin, with his unreserved compassion and inability to judge, functions as a mirror that reflects the hypocrisy of those around him. He doesn't accuse anyone, but his mere existence exposes the moral misery of others, and for that reason he is ridiculed, exploited, and ultimately destroyed. Dostoevsky did not write The Idiot as a fairy tale. He did not want to convince us that purity would triumph in the end. On the contrary, his novel is a clinical study of how the righteous are crushed by collective cynicism. The question remains, and us? What would we do in Myshkin's place? Or worse, without realizing it, are we already on the other side of the story? If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of this content? Share your opinion in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, take this opportunity to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. See you next time.